don't want to talk too much, because if I give you a too long lesson with too many informations, you simply cannot understand, or simply you cannot I just mean I mean you simply cannot get used to it if I give you too many informations one time. So that's why I like to cover only one topic at a time. So I don't want I don't want to make a presentation longer than 40 minutes, because after 40 minutes you just cannot receive any more informations, neither by talk, neither by video, and we have some other things to do. So I figured out that I need to hold 45 minutes lessons for you, and I give you the rest of the hour for a practice on your own. Because if I talk too much and I talk the whole time, even on the presentation part and the practice part, you just cannot process you just cannot process the information in your head. And that's why my concept is not to, I give you the essence of the learning material, and then I give you time to process it, to understand it, because it's much more important to understand a little bit less. It's always better to understand a little bit less than to not understand much more, if you understand what I mean. Okay, so first I just put a sphere in here. Sorry about that, I recorded this whole speech, a whole little speech with the OBS, so it will be there on the record, but never mind. So first of all, I just put a cube there, and second, I drop down a disk here under it.
I'm sorry, but we cannot see the screen. Sorry.
Would you share screen, please?
I shared it, but now I reshared them. But thank you for noticing. Just a moment. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Oh, great. So I just put a sphere on here like this, and I put in a disk, and to make it smooth and beautiful, I just increase the segmentation of the objects, like the sphere objects and the disk objects, the rotation segments, to make it smooth, the edges, to make it beautiful. And there is it.
Sorry.
Hello, Samir, hello.
Would you please show what the left, right click?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Sure. Thank you for noticing.
Thank you very much.
Then you can follow it. Yeah, sure. There is it. So there is a sphere, and I would like to put it some more. Like this.
Levent, sorry, are you recording this lesson?
Am I?
Are you recording this lesson?
Yeah,
Because
of course. When you
I don't see
see the red dot here, it's recording.
the.
If you don't see the red dot here, then please notify me, okay? Because I forget it. I forgot it. It means that I forgot to turn it on.
Yeah, I don't see it.
You can see it now because it's red here.
Do you guys see any red lights on the screen?
Yeah, I can see
Here
the
it
small dot.
is. Here it is. A red dot in the left corner here.
All right then, thanks.
Shows it's recording. Okay, so I just arrange them a little bit, make them smaller and bigger, like this. And now I need to create a shadow catcher material. A shadow catcher material means that I can make a background, a white background, which is infinite. And let me show you how it works. I create a shadow catcher material. I create a corona sky, for example. I set it to fake sky model, and I just make them gray. Make this color gray, completely gray. Okay, so that's what I see. And I grab the shadow catcher mode, set it to environment, and I just drag and drop the corona sky to the environment slot. And this way, if I just put a light in here, a big light, I just clicked on the corona light and I make it big, like this. And this is the setting. I rotate it right there. And now I make a copy of it and I rotate it with 180 degree, like this. Great. And I make it really good, really big. So this is it. Yeah. I make a copy and I make a new one to the top, like this. And let's see that are we good like this. We need to adjust their strengths. So first of all, this I name it to the left light. Then I name it to the right light and top light. And this is the background. Okay, and I save the scene. English, let's see. So there we are. And now I start the interactive, and now I create a camera, because we need to create a camera first. I activate the camera with this button here, and I turn on the interactive rendering or the interactive viewport. Now I enable the interactive viewport because it will render this image what I see. Okay, so I turn it on and I see it's clearly really way too bright. Okay, so there is now I turn them off, and I can see that here is the disk, the shadow catcher disk. I make it I made it really big, and you can, yeah, and as you can see, it has no borders. If I set my background and set my ground color, zenith color, horizontal color, and I set my ground color to, I don't know, 50, and let's say 30, I get this one, and I blur it. So I have the zenith, the horizon color. The zenith is the top, the horizon is right here, and the ground is here. If I set the blur of the horizon, that I have a more homogeneous background, and this is what I want. I turn on the top light first, then the right light, and then the left light. First of all, I don't want to see them. There are two things I can do. First, I move them out from the scene like this. Second, I make them invisible. I select them all, I set their intensity to, let's say, 5, like this, and I grab the visible directly and turn it off. Okay, and now I see what changed. So this is the top light, this is the right light, and this is the left light. You see, the left light it's a bit weak. So I move it like here. Okay, good. So this is my basic setting. And now I turn off my, in performance settings, my fast preview denoise during render, because I don't want to have this in the Corona. We may add denoising later, but not now. So what do we see? we see 4 spheres in the space. We set our studio. We made our studio setup. And with the infinite studio setup. And now we have 3 lights, 3 weak lights. And now I start adjusting them. Let's say the right light, let's say I made it to 10 and the left right 10 as well. So I have this setup. Let's say the top light be 10 as well, but I find it way too strong, so I just decrease the intensity to, let's say, 6. And now we need to find out how a material has to look like. I click down on the Corona button here. I grab this line, this dotted line here. I grab it and I hold down the mouse key, the right mouse key, and I just dock it here. Okay. So I don't have to create a new material always like this. But now I just close because I have this now. So I create a new material and I name it to white glossy and open it by double clicking. So be aware, it's not create materials and new material, it's Corona new material. Okay, so I set my diffuse to 100. This we never use this. We never make 100 level. It's a scalar level, and we never make 100 sRGB level because that's whiter than snow, and it's almost an emissive material. So when we talk about white, this is the white maximum. Okay. Now I just click on my camera and I grab my highlight compression value and I bump it up to 1.5 or more to preserve the details showing up here. Okay, so now this is a white material but not glossy yet because I have to click reflection. And when I click reflection, it starts to reflect its surrounding area. Okay, so you can see these 3 lights which make make the scene, which light the scene, basically lit the scene, or lighting the scene, and it's beautiful. A white glossy material, a white glossy plastic, for example. This is the first and the second most basic material, because if I turn out the reflection, I just get a rough diffuse material, which is a white wall, a completely white wall. Okay, this is a white wall, and when I turn it on, it's a white glossy material. So if I turn it off and I make a copy, let's name it to white glossy to white diffuse wall. And let's name it to white glossy, and on the glossy material I just turn on reflection. Okay. I just group them to make my life easier with editing materials here. Okay, great. Now I change the color of it, the diffuse. If I change the diffuse color, we have many options. Temperature slider, or mixing two materials, or we can paste hexacode, or we can use the RGB values to create. I prefer the HSV to create my colors. Why? Because it's easy. I define first the hue, which let's say green, and then the saturation and the value, which is the brightness of the color. It's easy. Or there's a classic method when I have this value, the color spectrum, and I can set my colors here. Let's say it's completely red. Avoid these material. Avoid extreme levels when we set colors. So don't set 255 material on the red color, because then it will be too emissive, or the red albedo will be too high, and it will not generate realistic results. Okay. So this is how we colorize our materials, the diffuse. And if I set reflection, 1.5 is good. If I increase my Fresnel IOR value, it gets more and more glossier, but you should know that there are two types of IOR. First, the water, which is 1.33. It looks like this. Second, the plastic and concrete and every other material, which is 1.55. It is true even for the glass material. And then there are the conductor materials, which are, the like aluminium or copper or chrome, and they have the Fresnel IOR value as 999, so it's infinite. And they start to, and at this point they start to look like chrome or glass material. At this point, the diffuse value is, it just doesn't, it doesn't matter if I turn it off or on. Let's say I want to make an aluminum panel. I grab the glossiness, which is the basically controls the roughness of the material surface. So if I make it like this, 0.5, or let's say less, like 0.3, we get a metallic aluminium panel. But what if I want to colorize my metallic aluminium panel? Then I need to set the reflection color. So if I make the color like, I don't know, let's say a black, or let's say this aluminium panel is dark, or let's say it's some kind of darkish, bluish, dark bluish color, or brown. Okay, so this is how I control the glossiness and the color of the conductor materials. Conductor means non-dielectric, so conductor materials are copper, gold, and every other steel. Okay. If I want to make a copper material, for example, let's name it as aluminium material. Aluminium rough. Okay. And now let's create a copper material. Let's say copper. Copper is easy. It's the same paradigm. Reflection is the color of the copper, like this. I just need to replace it. And I need to increase the glossiness to 9.9, like this. So this is, it looks like a copper. But of course, there is no material which has a perfect surface in the reality. So we need to create a glossiness texture. And let me show you what I mean. I download a dirt texture. I search a dirt texture. Dirt texture map. Yeah, this is what we go for. And let's see what we got here. Okay, so you download an image, what you like, and then now I just load it from my library, Dirt Textures, and I'm going to apply my texture like this. I grab my glossiness texture and put it here to the glossiness slot. And we can see when I did this, tiny smudges and scratches start to appear on my copper material. Okay. If I want to make it I want to make this effect a bit smoother, I need to click on this little arrow right here. I set a layer mode, and I create a color, shader and color. This is the reflection color. Let's say this is the reflection color, and I just make the bitmap opacity like, for example, 50%, and it will decrease its strength by 50%, so it will look much much weaker. The texture strength has weakened. And if I decrease the color, it's like layers in Photoshop, to 65%, I get this result. This is the roughness. This is the glossiness, basically. Glossiness. And this is the imperfection. Okay. So basically I mix the two. You can play with it without any problem. It's easy. It's 50-50, then there's a base reflection, base glossiness with value of 50, and an imperfection on it by 50%. This is how I use these this is how I use these maps. Okay. And if I want to make it a gold material, then I just choose a goldish color. I don't know, let's try this one. Or let's go for this. No, it's too strong. I want to make it a little brighter and make the saturation a little bit. Okay, so let's say it's gold. It's copper and gold. And if I want to make a chrome material, I just set it to completely white. Like this. And this is the chrome material. Then I set the glossiness to 100%, like this, and there is our imperfection showing up, which is of course needed, because there is no perfect material on this world. Okay, so this is the reflection. This is basically this is the most important thing. And of course, when the Fresnel value is 999, the diffuse value is non-existent, because its color completely defined by its surrounding. So it's the conductor material has this property that it's just reflect its surrounding, and it has no color itself. The second material, the third material type, is the glass material. I completely turn off the diffuse and I set my IOR value to 1.55 like this. And we need to know that to create glass material we need to give our object thickness. So I grab this nul, I put it into a cloth surface like this, set subdivision and factor to 0, and I give it thickness with 1 to the objects. But be aware, because if you set it to -1, the surface normals will be inverted. So there will be artifacts in your renderings. There will be artifacts will show up if you don't be aware of what direction of thickness you use with the cloth surface. So now I just turn off the reflection and turn on the refraction, and that's it. And that's all I have to do. I have the glass material. I can make it a little bit thinner, or let's say, you see, if I go reverse, I reverted the normals, and it destroys completely the glass look. This is not physically correct. So let's say it's 0.5. Let's say the thickness is 0.5, and this material has a good effect. If you use reflection, glossiness or not, this is your decision. Okay. And what if I want to make, and this is the, and this is now the glass material. And what if I want to make colored glass? If I want to make colored glass, I need to colorize the reflection color or the refraction color. The refraction color will colorize the refraction. Let me show you what does it mean. I need to choose a very light and very pastel color. Because if I choose a dark color, it starts look like a completely you know, it's like a plastic. It's like a volume with no wall thickness. It's like a complete volume, a massive sphere with its full volume without wall thickness. So we need to be careful with these colors. We always choose very light colors to colorize the glass. If it's needed. So if you choose this color and you want lighter, if you want bigger transparency, you just go to the HSV, the hue and saturation and value, and you just crank up the value until you get your desired look. Okay, so this is the saturation, and the hue can stay on his place. So this is the colored glass. Let's see what we need to do if we want to create a concrete and we need to and we want to use textures. So I uploaded a good texture supply for you. Materials, and here you have it. I have the Ziegler shaders, the Airway Texture collection, and I have this texture folder with a few textures in it. I've downloaded, and there are some lib4d files with Corona materials from DE, some Corona assets I use, and some trees. The only thing you have to do is to put it into program files, Maximum Cinema 4D, your version, library, browser, and it means the downloaded lib4d. Just put the downloaded lib4d into this folder. Okay, so that's how you install it. And if you download the Airway Texture collection, I link it to you. Okay, just get link, and everyone with the link can view. Copy, done. And yeah, this is it. The materials 3D files, the learning links. This is the learning links on our Discord channel, which you were invited on Discord channel. These are some web textures. You can download many textures from the net, like Texture Ninja, Texture Heaven, SketchUp Textures, Texture Lib, Architextures, Pbr Textures. So many sites you can download textures for free. But I like the Airway Texture collection the most, of course. And here is it. Airway Concretes. And there is a list with previews about these textures. They look really good. I love them, and they have channels. So let's see concrete 18. I close this, and I made a catalog, by the way, so I don't have to so I just downloaded the Airway. Let's say you downloaded the Airway Texture Types collection, and now you create a catalog in Cinema 4D. You click here, Window, Content Browser, and you click here to the catalogs. File, New Catalog, and Airway Textures. Okay, you create Airway Textures, and then you grab the Airway Texture Collections folder and just drag and drop it here. Okay, so let's say I just drop this one here, but I don't want to because I have already here, so I don't want to process it. I delete it, and I also delete the folder as well. And if I reopen the folder, I don't have it anymore. So now I delete it, or I set it back to copper. Refraction, I don't need refraction, I just need one infinite value, and this is we went back to copper. So we have white diffuse, white glossy, we have aluminium, we have colored glass, and we have, of course, simple glass. Colored glass, copper, and now let's create the concrete, or favorite material of everyone, concrete. And you know, the color value always connected to the diffuse value. So if I just go to the 18, sorry, there are three types of material. First, there is the diffuse, the concrete 18D100. This means it's the diffuse map. So I just grab it and put it into the texture slot of the diffuse section, and I wait a bit to load it. It's a huge texture and it's wonderful. And there is a bump texture. I will show you what is this in just a moment. I set it to linear mode, and I have the reflection channel. I set it to the specular and the glossiness channel as well. So I can choose if I set it to the color, reflection color, or the reflection glossiness. And first, let's put it into the reflection texture. But it will be very dark, and I don't like that. So I clear this, and I just put it into the glossiness slot. And I set it to linear mode. Like this. Okay. Now we're done. I apply my material, start the interactive viewport, and let's see what we have here. This is the concrete. Let me show you what bump map is. You can see there are some incorrections in the surface caused by the bump. Let's say I give 100 value for it. And you can see what I mean. The concrete texture will be much more deeper. The concrete imperfections on the surface will be much deeper. Okay? If I set it to, let's say, 50, it gets smooth. It gets smoother. And this is a value what I choose, how much bumpy, how much bumpiness I want on the surface. And let's say I want a little bit bigger reflection. I set the value of 1.8. Let's see what happened here. It will reflect it a bit more area. And I click on the texture and I just increase its exposure, let's say 0.2. So my texture will be brighter. And as the texture will be brighter, my material will be more glossy as well, as you can see here. So this is a realistic concrete material. I set the bump strength to 15 to make it look smoother, and this is it. This is a concrete material. The important thing to consider, if you want, you know, we always, these are just textures. We always use them as we want to reach or the look we want. So I use it linear mode because it's brighter. The linear mode is brighter than the sRGB mode, so I get much more reflection. Because, you know, in reality, the concrete is not so glossy. But if I want to make a little bit glossy, I have to set it to the linear value. And by the way, we always use, almost always use linear mode with the bump, the displacement, the normal, and the reflection glossiness. And please remember it, because if you download a bunch of textures with many maps, like normal maps and bump maps and I don't know, then you need to set them to a linear value. Okay, so this is a concrete material. Now, sorry about that, now it's recording. Thank you
so much.
So if I want to create a parquet texture, let's put it here like this, and I load from the Airway Texture catalog a wood flooring texture. Here is my preview window, and I just select the texture. I open my parquet material in the material editor. I go into the diffuse section and I just load a material like wood 35. I put it here. By the way, if you have only one texture, it's no problem, because you can create a reflection of it, and you can use this texture as a reflection map as well. Not the IOR, sorry, the glossiness. The IOR has to be white. So like this, and after it I just increase the saturation until I get the desired look, as you can see. So if I don't have any other maps, only the texture maps, for example from the internet, let's say I search the texture from the internet, I don't have these bump maps and reflection maps and anything else, I can safely use this texture without any problem. Okay, so diffuse, reflection, and I even can use it as a bump map. If I want to make it less rough, I continue increasing the exposure value, and now I have a good reflective material. Okay. looks good. Let's create a cube because it will look better on a cube. I will use a fillet with a radius of 20, and I apply the parquet texture on this. And as you can see, it's distorted. And this is because it's UV mapping. I set it to cubic mapping, and I will set its coordinates to 200, 200, 200.
I'm sorry for interrupt you. Can you repeat this action, how to make UVW?
The UVW, mapping is the basic mapping of the parametric objects. I will show you the UV mapping later, but now we just use cubic mapping for the planar objects, okay?
Okay.
Project, so I
It's a different method, yeah? It's a different method.
I just click here on the material tag, and I set the projection from UV mapping to cubic mapping. And now I can adjust, not here, length U and V, but on the coordinates. Let's say I want 300, 300, and 300. So I get a much bigger texture, and I will rotate it to get light from both sides. Like this, and I put it on the floor. So this is a parquet texture. It looks good. If I want to make it a little bit rough, I want to make it a little bit rougher, I just decrease the exposure to 0.7 so we can adjust the look of the pocket. Of course, if I have these textures, what I showed you in the content browser, I can use these maps. So 35, this is the bump map. So I use this bump map. We always need to enable these channels, do not forget it. I set it to, let's say, 60%, which looks, I use what looks good. I try to enable and disable it again. Okay. And on the reflection, I try to use its own reflection channel. And let's see what we got here. And as you can see, it's an R. Wood 34. Sorry, I used the wrong texture. Sorry about that. So I used the wrong texture because this is the 35 bump, 35 diffuse, and 35 reflection. And this is not a glossiness or specular, so it's not a G. So I have to use this on the reflection channel. Color, texture, and this is the reflection channel. Because it's if an R, I need to put it on the reflection, and I clear the glossiness value, and I have to set it manually. So for example, let's say the glossiness is 0.5 or 0.7. Okay, so this is what we get with these values. If we don't like the look, the final outcome, we can always adjust it. We can always play with it. I turn it off. I put it here, make it bigger. And there is it. This is our parquet texture.
We can upload a picture that it's mapped for the bump and the roughness and these things from outside the library, right?
From outside the...
Not from the library, which is already uploaded in the program. If I have a picture for the bump, roughness, reflectance, these things, can I upload it to the library, then use it?
Of course. You just come here. I have a bunch of materials with these channels. I set it to, let's say I want to make a stone material. I create a new material. I name it to stone. I open it. But every time when what do I have here? Let's check it. A base color. Let's see, marble. And I have the diffuse, which is the base color. The base color is the same as the diffuse. I put it here. I have a normal map. I won't use it. I don't like normal maps because normal maps make loop materials a bit weird. So I never use normal maps. I rather use the diffuse map as a bump map. Almost always. And then what you need to know, the glossiness is the invert of the roughness. So when you download a Pbr material, a Pbr means physically based rendering. So if you, let's say, come over here and I have this Pbr site, and let's say I go to the texturelib.com. So I go to the concrete, I choose clean, and you can see all I can download is a simple texture. I have no bump, I have no reflection, and I don't have any maps. So we need to this time we need to use only this diffuse texture. But if I go to a Pbr site, where I can download Pbr textures like CC0 textures, and if I download I download some kind of material, like let's say a wood material, I can download a whole package. And this package, if I click here, it's 41.8 megabytes. I go to my SBS exports, wood texture, and these are my textures. I create the wood. I don't know what kind of wood is it. Let's say it's an oak texture. Oak, wood, 45, CC0. I press enter, put them in, And after I have it, I put it onto the other monitor because it's much more comfortable for me. Now let's use it instead of this marble. So I grab the color, put it here. I don't use the normal texture. I grab the reflection, which is the roughness. Roughness goes to glossiness, but never forget I have to invert it because the glossiness is the invert of roughness. How do I do it? I set it to linear mode and I just switch the black point to 1 and the white point to 0, and it's done. I grab the diffuse, put it into a bump texture, and I set it to 30. And I'm gonna apply my oak material to one of these sphere. I just need to wait to load the textures. So I grab my oak material and apply it to one of the spheres. Sorry. Okay, so this is my brand new material. Perfect. This is how I use textures. But what if I only have one textures? I showed you that before. I just let's say here are my textures folder. Where are they? Pbr and random textures. You know, when I just download the texture from the internet, what I like, looking around on the internet, I look for good textures I like. I always save it to a folder, and later when I use it, I save as a material. So let's say I want to use this texture. What texture? Let's say I want to use this texture, or let's say I want to use this texture. I just create a new Corona material, double click on it, and what I like to do is always browse it from the content browser. So I just go to here, computer, age, elements, age, Pbr, random textures. It's like the Windows Explorer. Almost the same, but it generates previews much better and much higher quality. So for texturing a scene, and of course when you click into Cinema 4D, it doesn't disappear, because when I drop a material, it will disappear because it's another window. Okay, so when I apply a texture like this, I know, let's say this one, I apply this texture, blonde sandstone stack architecture, like this, and I will apply it. I come to here, copy the file name, and I name the file as the texture. So that's the same. And after this, I give it a little bit of reflection. I decrease the glossiness because it's way too high, to like 70%, and I just make a little bump. Not much, but a little bit of bump texture. Okay, so there it is. it looks great, really great. I really love it. And the shininess is clear, is easily adjusted by the glossiness value. If I want to make a glossiness texture, so I can do without any problem. But for these kind of materials, I usually not use glossiness textures because I like them smooth, and the imperfections and the material will get the imperfections from the bump map. Okay. So this is the answer to your question.
Thank you.
I almost always use the is it the right bump texture I'm using here? Let me park it. 35, 35,
But I
35. Okay, so I just decrease the bump a little bit because it's way too strong. Let's say just 10. Oh, and we need to consider the linear mode because these Pbr materials are designed to use as a linear workflow. So do not forget, bump is almost always linear. Reflection, glossiness, always, but only the glossiness. The texture is not a scalar value, so it's an sRGB texture, so it's the embedded, and the bump is usually linear. But what you decide, what looks good. Excuse me, somebody wanted to ask something, right? Am I right?
No, I just wanted to say that we can also create maps from the texture.
Yeah, of course, of course. Maps for, like reflection map.
Yeah, bump maps, reflection.
Yeah, I know there are some softwares like Bitmap to Material, which is completely free and you can download it anytime. I never use it because let's say I just use this travertine texture. I load it as a base color diffuse. No, sorry. No, it's wrong. This is now how it's done. So let's say it's I drop the bitmap here and load as a main input, okay? And he tries to create roughness map for me and height map for me. I don't want to see height map now, and as you can see, it's way too strong. Way too strong. I don't need this. So I turn off the height output. Out. I go to 2K because it's very hard to process it to my hardware. You can grunge. You can play with it, but I find it much easier to just adjust the let's say environment or scene materials, definitions, roughness. Yes, that's what we want, and we don't need the normal or height map. We don't want to see the height map. nor the normal map. No normal map, please. So this is what we get here. And it created the roughness map, metallic map, it doesn't need it. Normal, it's created a normal map. If I turn the normal map on, channels and normal map, we can adjust the global method and the normal map called relief. And I set it to OpenGL. And I pull down the intensity of it to make it much more softer. But as I mentioned, I never use it. Only bump. And I don't need any grunge. And I don't even know what are these black light equalizer. It creates some weird splotches here, and I don't know why. Roughness value. But I don't like this method, and I tell you why. It simply just takes too much time. And I have to export them. I have to name them. I have to load them again. It's perfect for us to just simply put a texture like travertine stretcharchitectures.com. I create a new material. I name it first. And after this, I just put it in. I override this material. And it's perfect. It's almost perfect. I just give it a little bit of reflection. I pull down the glossiness to 0.5 or anything I want. 0.7. And after that, I use a tiny bit of bump, like 10%. Okay, and I'm completely fine with this. I don't have to adjust anything. I don't have to use another software to generate the maps. I have a completely fine material ready to use. Okay.
Yes.
But thanks for noticing, because there's this possibility exists to create materials this way, Pbr materials this way. So you're right, but I don't use it because it just takes too much time, and I like to finish my projects very, very fast. Because you know, I like to iterate between materials, between lights and everything. I like to switch them from one to another. I like to, you know, when you design a space, you like iterating your options, and that's why I don't use material creation, the Pbr material creators. To tell you the truth, I almost always use only one texture map, the diffuse map. and I create the whole material from the diffuse map. Because I don't like this roughness. I want to look this material good, not to be imperfect. Okay, I don't like these imperfections. I want a clean, nice looking parquet, which seems new, not used or aged or something like that. I want new material, a new fresh look, not an aged and corroded look. Okay, so we created parquet textures, we create stone textures, concrete textures. So basically we have everything. And after that, if you install the lib4d materials from here, the lib4ds mean library 4d, you will have these options in the content browser. Window, content browser, and you will have these options here in the presets. And Corona Materials, I've loaded a bunch of textures. I pre-made a bunch of textures and I downloaded a bunch of Corona Materials from the Corona Materials pont.de. So let's say there's a Jura Gray limestone and I just grab it and put it on my sphere and it's ready. And let's say I want to save this travertine texture which I made. I want to save this texture. So I go to my Corona Materials, I go to the stone. These are my pre-made materials, and here I have. I already done this material. But if I want to save this material, I just grab it. After I made it, I grab it and drag and drop into this folder. Okay, and there it is. It generates a preview, and it's ready. So if you downloaded my library for the materials, you will have all these materials pre-made. And the other thing, you will have in the learning materials, if you go here, rendering, materials, there is this Corona anyagozási segédlet. Okay, if you click on this, you will find the material settings. So let's say this is the gold texture, and I show here that I need to. These are Hungarian names, but you can recognize the material by looking at them. Okay, so it's quite straightforward. So let's say the chrome material. I use only the reflection channel 999 Fresnel IOR, .9 glossiness, and we are just ready. Okay, this is it. This is the chrome material. This is the copper material with reflection, 16 IOR. You know, 16 or 999 is almost the same because the IOR curve, the reflection curve, it's like the logarithmic curve, so it's just not the logarithmic curve, the x, what's that curve? Sorry about that. The x cubic, like the cubic formula. You know the cubic formula? Like this. So there's the x and y axis, and this is the glossiness map. So here is 16 and here is 999. So it's almost over 3 or over 5. It's it doesn't make such a difference what you type into here. So this is 16 and this is 999. So it's almost this. It gives us almost the same specular, or almost the same Fresnel. Okay. This is the Fresnel. This is the value. Sorry for this really ugly writing, but it was the fast way to show you. Okay, so this is it. Wood, glossy surface, aluminium surface, mirror surface. Mirror is almost like chrome, is almost the same. And concrete texture with the procedural way. What I just show you. You use a diffuse, a reflection, and a bump texture, and there is it. So that's what I wanted to show you. And the other thing is just really fast. I would like to show you how to create, how to assign materials to surfaces. So for example, I press the fillet button here. I make it a little bit let's say just 5 centimeter, and no, I turn it off right now. I make it editable. I select this two. The scene is too dark now. I set the display to constant shading line mode now, and I just hide the viewport view of the sky, the background, but only do not forget, I only make hidden in the editor view, so it will be because I didn't change this visibility spot, it will be shown in the render. So I just select these two faces, apply a material like this, and okay, let's model it a little bit. Let's make just made a few adjustments on the mesh like this. Yeah. So I want this to be, let's say, a material of this one. Let's say it's a material of travertine, and let's say I want it to be an oak. Okay, and you can see the materials are not good, not looking too good. And this is because of the mapping. I need to select these materials and set them to projection cubic mapping. For planar surfaces, this is the best choice. I will show you later how UV mapping works. It's a bit tedious, and I almost never use it. Never use UV unwrapping because it's too time consuming. But if you want to deform this surface, and it's very pixelated now, so I just select these materials and click on the preview button, and viewport preview size, I set it to 1K. Okay, now it looks a little bit better. And I grab this material, it's the oak, and I make it a little bit smaller, like this. And I want to rotate it. So I click on the coordinates and I just rotate it by 90 degrees like this. And now it's fine, it looks fine. 50, 50, 50, 50. Good, it's good now. Okay. And I do the same here. It's cubic, it's fine. And now I can bevel the edges. But the problem will be with the bevel that the bevel will create new polygons which are not in the selection tags. And this is because selection tags are important. If I select the object in polygon mode and I click through these selection tags, these triangles are the selection tags, I can see polygon selection 2. And when I switch to the travertine stretch architectures, I can see this selection is polygon selection 2. If I delete it, it disappears. So I need to give it back like this. And if I delete the oak, the whole thing will be oak because it has no polygon selection. So I need to add this selection tag. But what if I want to modify my selection? So let's say I double click here and I want to select this and this as well, and this loop as well. Then I make my selection, I click on the selection tag, I go over here and click to the set selection button. And then I override the selection. Okay. The problem is when I apply the bevel, new polygons will appear which has no textures applied. And yeah, well, this is a problem because at this point we should separate these pieces, and I don't want to do it. So I just, but how do I bevel these edges then? There is a setting in Corona which is called, I click on the travertine or the wood. Let's say I want to make it on the wood texture, plugins, Corona, and round edges. And this is the additional bump mapping. I set the radius only 1 centimeters. I start the interactive rendering, and as I can see, it is getting rounded. Legacy behavior, 1 centimeter. You can try both if you want. Both works well. Let's decrease it to 0.5. You can't bevel it too much, just a tiny bit. So for example, if I type in 2, I bump up the strength to 100. the effect will be just too strong. So I go here, I type only one here, and those are my beautiful bevels. Okay, that's how I do it. That's how I bevel the edges. This is fine because I don't have to deal with the bevel deformer. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you today.